Few things offer as much freedom as the chance to pack your bags and head off to a new destination. After 70, this desire often intensifies. After all, it's when many finally feel free from the obligations of professional and family life. However, behind this sense of accomplishment, there are details that are rarely discussed. Traveling at this stage of life can conceal silent risks that compromise not only physical well-being, but also emotional and financial security. Many of these dangers aren't visible in travel guides or agency commercials. They are real situations, experienced by ordinary people who were caught off guard by preventable unforeseen events. In this video, we're going to address, with clarity and respect, the main hidden dangers that surround travel after 70. Understanding each of them can be the difference between a transformative experience and a bitter memory. With time, the body changes, the mind does too, and even small details of a trip can generate major consequences. That's why each point you're about to see here has been carefully selected based on real accounts and serious studies, including surprising discoveries made by Edgar Cayce about vital energy and the impact of unfamiliar environments on older individuals. If you're over 70 or know someone who is about to travel, this video can help more than you might imagine. And if this type of content makes sense to you, please consider subscribing to the channel and giving us a like. This way you help us continue producing relevant and safe information for those who value this phase of life. Among the first warning signs is a very common but almost never recognized problem: the impact of time zone changes on the biological rhythm. For younger people, jet lag might only cause a temporary inconvenience. But in people over 70, it can trigger temporary mental confusion, memory lapses, and sleep disturbances that last for days. In more extreme cases, it can even precipitate acute disorientation, especially when the person already has some mild cognitive impairment. This type of situation is often interpreted as normal tiredness, which makes early diagnosis difficult. Therefore, planning trips that respect the body's timing is essential. This includes choosing suitable flight times and, whenever possible, avoiding abrupt time zone changes within a few days. Another frequently ignored risk is prolonged exposure to extreme temperatures. Famous tourist destinations such as deserts, mountainous regions, or areas of intense cold can represent a silent danger. Aging reduces the body's ability to regulate its own temperature, which increases vulnerability to sunstroke, dehydration, and hypothermia. Many seniors embark on excursions without the necessary physical preparation, and guides aren't always attentive to the initial signs of discomfort. There are documented cases of drops in blood pressure, confusion, and even fainting during light walks. In addition, common medications for hypertension and diabetes can aggravate these effects. Therefore, choosing destinations with moderate climates, respecting the body's limits, and maintaining constant hydration are simple actions that prevent serious complications. Traveling safely means accepting that the body needs different care as time passes. Food on trips also becomes a trap for those over 70. In many destinations, typical dishes contain ingredients or spices to which the body no longer responds well. In addition, abrupt changes in eating routines can affect digestion, causing diarrhea, constipation, or even unexpected allergic reactions. In seniors, these effects are heightened, especially when there are already pre-existing gastrointestinal problems or the use of continuous medications. Another important factor is the temptation to consume street food or food in places without sanitary control, something very common on international trips. Food contamination in older people can evolve into severe dehydration and even hospitalizations. Therefore, it's essential to maintain a light diet, prioritize trusted places, and, whenever possible, carry safe snacks during outings. Mobility problems are another point that can transform a dream trip into a logistical nightmare. Stairs, cobblestone streets, lack of ramps, or lack of support in public restrooms can become insurmountable obstacles for those who already have physical limitations. Even people who consider themselves active can face difficulties with heavy luggage, long walks, or crowded public transportation. In these cases, the risk of falls increases considerably, and a fracture or sprain can interrupt the entire trip. In addition, the physical discomfort accumulated over the days directly affects mood and willingness to enjoy the destination. It's essential to plan routes, prioritize accommodations with accessibility, and not be afraid to hire specialized support when necessary. Taking care of mobility is taking care of the freedom to come and go, even in another country. Another little talked about danger is linked to dependence on regular medications. After 70, many people need to follow strict schedules to take medications that keep chronic conditions under control, such as hypertension, diabetes, or heart problems. On a trip, it's common for these schedules to get lost in the midst of travel, time zone changes, and tight tourist agendas. In addition, some medications may not be available in local pharmacies, especially on international trips. There are cases in which seniors forgot to take their prescription and were unable to replenish their medications along the way. This compromises not only physical health, but also emotional tranquility during the trip. Therefore, taking extra doses, keeping medications in your carry-on luggage, and using reminders on your cell phone are simple practices that prevent risky situations. In a well-planned trip, taking care of your health needs to be as high a priority as packing your bags. The emotional aspect of travel also deserves special attention. Often, the expectation of living unforgettable days clashes with the reality of tiredness, loneliness, or the feeling of displacement. Seniors who travel alone may face feelings of insecurity, especially in places with very different languages or cultures. Those who travel accompanied by children or grandchildren may feel left out at times. This feeling of isolation is more common than you might think and can affect the enjoyment of the trip as a whole. In addition, the difficulty of adapting to new environments can generate anxiety or even episodes of sudden sadness. Therefore, it's essential to think not only about the itineraries, but also about how the trip will be experienced emotionally. Being in good company, maintaining clear communication, and setting aside moments of pause can help a lot in this process. Personal safety is a crucial and often neglected factor in tourist itineraries. People over 70 are frequently seen as easy targets by scammers and criminals, especially in large urban centers. Cases of theft, deception with money, and even scams at ATMs have been increasingly reported by elderly travelers. In addition, in moments of confusion or abrupt changes in plans, it's more difficult for an elderly person to react quickly. Knowing exactly where you're going, avoiding nighttime outings in unfamiliar places, and keeping your documents and cards in a safe place are basic measures, but they make all the difference. In many cases, an attentive attitude is more effective than any travel insurance. Being prepared is the best way to enjoy the journey with lightness and awareness of your own limits. A point that rarely receives attention, but is essential after 70, is the ability to deal with bureaucratic unforeseen events. Changes in reservations, changes in documentation requirements, or even lost flights can generate high levels of stress. While younger travelers tend to have agility to resolve these obstacles, many seniors feel paralyzed in the face of these situations. Lack of familiarity with apps, languages, or digital services can further hinder the quick resolution of problems. Therefore, having everything printed with accessible copies and clear contact instructions can greatly facilitate things. Another important point is to leave someone trustworthy aware of the itinerary and available to assist if necessary. These small preventions ensure that the focus of the trip remains the pleasure of discovery, and not the frustration from avoidable setbacks that could have been foreseen. In addition to the physical and logistical aspects, traveling also brings to the surface existential questions that become more sensitive as the years go by. Many seniors report that when visiting historical sites, unfamiliar cities, or imposing landscapes, they are taken over by profound reflections on time, legacy, and what they still want to experience. For some, this brings renewal. For others, it can awaken a certain melancholy or a sense of urgency. These emotions, although natural, need to be welcomed with wisdom. Knowing that it's possible to travel not only to see places, but also to reconnect with one's own history, can transform the entire experience. Edgar Cayce spoke about how changes in environment activate memories and inner revelations. and this is especially true in older age. Understanding that physical displacement is also an opportunity to look inward can be the most valuable part of the trip. It's important to remember that the greatest risk isn't exactly in the trip itself, but in the absence of preparation and awareness. After 70, traveling continues to be a privilege, but it must be done with a more attentive look at the real needs of the body and mind. When the dangers are ignored, what could be a pleasant experience becomes a source of stress and weariness. But when these points are recognized and respected, each trip gains in depth, safety, and meaning. Having the courage to explore the world at this stage of life is admirable, but it must be accompanied by wisdom, and this doesn't mean giving up, but adapting. Those who understand this travel better, enjoy more, and carry with them lighter and more lasting memories. After all, it's not the distance traveled that defines the greatness of the journey, but how much it respects who you are today. In many cases, it's precisely after 70 that the freedom arises to realize the dream of getting to know places that were always left for later. However, it's important to remember that the itineraries sold as unforgettable experiences are not always designed for those who are older. The accelerated pace, the long walks, and the absence of planned breaks can compromise the entire experience. When choosing a trip, it's essential to verify that the itinerary respects the body's timing and offers the necessary support in case of unforeseen events. This doesn't mean giving up what you want to experience, but adjusting expectations so that pleasure doesn't turn into exhaustion. Traveling with peace of mind today is much more about quality than quantity. Prioritizing well-being is what makes it possible to truly enjoy each place, each landscape, each conversation. And that's worth much more than a busy schedule in places that can barely be explored. The choice of company on the trip also plays a determining role in the experience. Traveling with people who don't respect your rhythm or interests can be as exhausting as traveling alone. It's common for well-intentioned family members to end up imposing an itinerary geared towards their own desires, forgetting the real needs of those accompanying them. On the other hand, when the company is empathetic and understanding, the trip takes on another tone. Walking at your own pace, stopping to observe calmly, choosing where to eat without rushing, all this creates a more human and welcoming environment. That's why talking before the trip, aligning expectations and sharing responsibilities can avoid unnecessary frustrations. Traveling well isn't just about the destination, but about the way you live the journey. And this path should always respect the limits and desires of everyone involved, especially those who need the most care. Another essential and often neglected detail is travel insurance. After 70, this contract ceases to be optional and becomes a basic necessity. However, many conventional plans have age restrictions or don't cover pre-existing conditions, which can generate a false sense of security. In a medical emergency outside the country, the costs can be very high, and without adequate coverage, the entire trip can become a financial burden. In addition, there are issues such as lost luggage, delays, or flight cancellations, which directly impact the experience. Good insurance, chosen with attention to detail and specific coverage for seniors, offers the peace of mind necessary for the trip to flow smoothly. After all, no one wants to think about problems during the trip, but having this guarantee is a smart way to ensure that if something happens, the solution will be within reach. Many travelers over the age of 70 don't realize how financial organization can be a vulnerable point during the trip. In international destinations especially, the use of cards, unfavorable exchange rates, or unexpected fees can generate confusion and losses. In addition, it's common to trust banking apps that, in case of loss of the cell phone or connection failure, leave the traveler without access to their own resources. The best practice is to diversify. Take an amount in cash, use cards with fee waivers for abroad, and have a trusted contact with access to banking data in case of emergency. Another important tip is to plan expenses in advance, avoiding improvisations or impulsive purchases that could compromise the budget. Having financial control when traveling is what allows you to enjoy every moment without future worries. After all, freedom is only real when it comes with security. It's also essential to take care of communication during the trip. Being in another country can make it difficult to connect with family members or essential services, especially in emergency situations. Often, seniors are not accustomed to the most used apps or face barriers with the local language. Having an international chip with active internet, saving important contacts in accessible places, and even carrying a small card with medical and contact information can make a difference in critical moments. In addition, knowing at least the basics of the local language or having an offline translator can help avoid misunderstandings and facilitate simple interactions. Effective communication not only avoids problems but also improves the experience, allowing more human and enriching interactions along the journey. It's at this point that the trip ceases to be just a physical displacement and becomes a true exchange of experiences. The way the trip is recorded also changes with time. While many young people take photos to post on social media, for those over 70, the record takes on another value. Each image, each small video, becomes a piece of preserved memory, and more than that, a way to share experiences with children, grandchildren, and friends who may never be in the same place. Taking the time to record landscapes, people, and details is part of the pleasure of the trip. Even keeping a simple diary with notes about the day, the weather, the food, or a remarkable conversation can be something very valuable in the future. These records also help to reorganize the memory, especially on long trips, and make it easier to remember what was experienced. The memory gains shape, color, and emotion. Traveling is living intensely, but it's also remembering with fondness everything that was lived. Another relevant factor that often goes unnoticed is the recovery time after the trip. People over 70 can take days, sometimes weeks, to get back to normal after a journey, especially if it was intense. The return home requires a period of physical and mental adaptation. It's common to feel prolonged tiredness, difficulty sleeping, or even discouragement in the following days. This moment shouldn't be interpreted as a sign that the trip wasn't worth it, but as a natural response of the body and mind that lived something outside the routine. Therefore, planning a time to rest upon returning is as important as organizing the trip itself. Avoiding commitments shortly after returning and maintaining a light diet and regular schedules helps to restore balance. The experience lived will be better assimilated when there is space for the body and soul to absorb everything calmly. Often, the positive impact of a trip at this stage of life is only perceived weeks later. The reunion with friends, the telling of stories, the photos organized calmly, all this prolongs the effect of the experience. It's in this recovery that the elderly traveler realizes how much stronger, renewed, and often more confident they have come out. Even with the necessary care, the risks and the limitations, the act of traveling after 70 can represent a reaffirmation of autonomy and vitality. It's important that this meaning is recognized, celebrated, and above all respected. Each trip is a personal victory. It doesn't matter if it was to another country or just to a nearby city. What counts is the internal movement, the conscious choice to leave the place, to face the new, and to allow oneself to live one more experience. This type of courage has no age, it has value. It's worth remembering that Edgar Cayce's discoveries about human energy, the impact of places on the body and soul, and the importance of staying connected with personal purpose are especially applicable to those who travel after 70. According to him, the environment has the power to heal or wear out, depending on how one is emotionally when living that experience. Therefore, more than visiting a place, it's important to be present in it, with balance and attention. Traveling shouldn't be an automatic act, nor a search for validation. It should be an encounter between what one lives outside and what one feels inside. And if you've made it this far, you may have already realized how this type of content can help many people. Therefore, if you feel it's worth it, share this video with someone you care about and consider subscribing to the channel. This helps us continue bringing reflections that make a real difference. It's common for many people to see old age as a time for pause, but for those who wish to live with intensity and wisdom, this phase can be the beginning of a new way of relating to the world. Traveling after 70 doesn't have to be synonymous with risk or worry, as long as one understands the importance of each detail. It's necessary to respect the body's timing, plan carefully, choose the destinations well, and be emotionally prepared for what the path holds. It's not about being afraid, but about acting with awareness. Each step taken with care increases the chance of living a rich, safe, and meaningful experience. And this has no relation to age, but to attitude. When you travel with responsibility, fears turn into learning and difficulties into stories worth telling. This is the true value of continuing to move, even when the world tells you to stop. The greatest lesson may be in realizing that it's never too late when there is will and preparation. Many accounts show that, even after 70, it's possible to live unique moments, learn about cultures, create new memories, and strengthen ties. What makes the difference isn't the distance traveled, nor the destination chosen, but the awareness of each decision. Knowing where to step, how to react, and when to stop is part of the process of living well. And living well doesn't mean denying the limits, but integrating them into what one wants to live. The courage to go even with care is proof that the will to live continues to pulsate. Each bag packed, each map opened, and each smile exchanged along the way proves that age is not a barrier, but an invitation to live with more presence and truth. If you've made it this far, it's a sign that you care about what really matters. And this is already the first step to living a more conscious, safer, and richer life in meaning. May these reflections serve as a guide for your next trip or to support someone who is about to embark on a new journey. Life, at any age, is made of choices. And when we choose with wisdom, everything changes. If you believe this content may be useful to someone you know, share it. And if you want to continue receiving information like this, consider subscribing to the channel. Your participation is what gives meaning to what we do here. Traveling after 70 can be one of the most beautiful experiences of life, and with the right care, it can also be one of the safest.